we'd like to start the live streaming event.
You know, start fucking shutting my word shirt.
Our event is starting.
Yeah, I'm not much better.
All right, I think we are live. That's what it says here. So let's just check. Yep, we are. Look at us.
Nice.
Cool. All right, we're going to keep the chat open. If you want to talk to us, talk to Chris. It's his birthday today.
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Chris. Happy Mother's Day, too.
It's Chris's birthday.
27 again.
I'll start off the chat with one of those.
Nice.
And we're going to edit up the drums here. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, he played awesome, so we only have one cut here. So I'm going to fade that out and then consolidate it.
It was all right.
It was on time. I wasn't satisfied with that. Can we do it again?
All right, consolidate, we'll get started. So this is when I really like pull everything closer to where you want it to be, just to make you even more tight than you actually played it. So it sounds like you on tour like 2 years from now rather than right this second.
It's going to lock you to the grid, bro.
You're fucking done, son.
All right, so we're set up with our elastic audios, and we can get started in warp mode. And now I have all these warp marks. It just like shows you, this is where you actually hit. And then we'll have our grid here.
Lines everything.
And you'll see like we're a little bit off here and so on. So we'll go through everything. First, I'm just going to go to the beginning and the end of it. Because we do a lot of triplets in this, so I want to kind of really pay attention to this one. When you go back and forth from eighth notes to triplets over and over, you got to be like super careful. Okay, so we're starting with mostly eighth notes.
No, the reality, I tell people this when I'm teaching, man. You know, everyone's human.
Yeah.
Like you can't take the human out. That's why they have compressors on the bass. And
now we're trying to make you sound even better than human. That's the thing about, like, you know, if you play bass with your finger.
I should have switched to my Chuck Taylors, man. They make me faster.
Well, now you think about that.
Nah.
Get my triplets now.
This is playing slow, man. It's kind of, you know, I'm used to playing it fast.
That's because we're all adrenaline down.
Yeah, it's your first song in your set. You get that energy going. Good fill, though.
Feels kind of relaxed.
Yeah, very chill.
You can always tweak it a bit if we can. Once he does all this, does his double play like that? Double play is everywhere.
Who's the drummer? Can you raise your hand? Let them know who the drummer is. That's the
right
boy.
here.
Big sexy
chubby guy. Chunky sexy. He's not sexy chunky.
That's the song.
I know it's hard to believe. A lot of people come up to me after the show every time.
Why do they think you're going to be like a tiny, tiny guy?
No, they're just like, hey,
They're like, you play drums?
yeah.
I've heard it.
Really?
He's like, are you the roadie? Yeah, I did. I've had several people tell me that shit. I'm like, what?
It's because you get so much
I
shit
was
to
like,
say.
well, yeah. I was like, and I'll go along with your story too. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, nah, man. I'm just setting up for him. We have, rock star at the show late. And then they see me go up there, and they're like, what? What? I don't see you playing drums, bro.
You look like you're barely moving.
Yeah.
You guys want to man the mic a little bit so they can hear you?
Oh.
Here you go.
Well, I suppose I could do that.
Yeah.
Howdy, folks.
Hi there. Yes. I'm
Happy
the
Mother's
drummer.
Day to any of you moms out there. We love you all, and we hope you love us back.
I'd be so surprised if we had one mom watching right now.
Right. Tell us there's a mom watching.
I'd love to see some elastic audio done to
Yeah.
them.
You know, actually, my mom's a drummer, so she probably would enjoy listening to this.
Yeah, she's pretty good too.
Hey, dude.
And she's
Hey,
awesome.
hey.
She's awesome,
Hey.
bro. She's great, dude. Can't say that about my mom.
So funny story, right? You know, growing up, my mom always had like a kick-ass 6-piece Sonar kit sitting around, right? And my friends would come over and they're like, dude, you got a nice drum kit. And I'm like, yeah, it's my mom's. And that got pretty embarrassing, so after a while I actually started to learn how to play so I didn't have to say that shit.
There you go, man.
And then I'd just jump on the kit and be like, yeah, it's awesome, right?
Do a little trick here and there.
Yeah.
Like they do on the guitar, they go.
That's one way to learn. Out of embarrassment. You know.
There you go, man. I know, and it just freaks me out that you're a guitarist, not a drummer. I mean, I know you play drums, but
I dabble. I can keep a beat.
I saw you do a show behind my drum set.
Yeah. I raped
That
your
was
drum
pretty
kit, bro.
amazing. That was pretty amazing.
I dig the mic, man.
Yeah, the cool thing about that mic, it's actually the first. This is a USB version of the first
Yeah.
vocal mic I ever had.
It's a very nice
Yeah.
Rode, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
Fits nicely on my kneecap.
You put it anywhere, pretty much.
Yeah, the Rodes are good. Haven't seen one in a while.
Man, that drummer's horrible. How long it's taking?
It's going smooth.
Oh, wow. You look like you're having fun. You just...
He's good with his fingers.
Yeah. And like Drake says, what I got switch from trigger fingers to Twitter fingers.
Yeah, you know, I'm working on that. I kind of get the impression the only reason people go on Twitter is for Trump and political crap.
You don't have to take it there now, Chris. We're
Oh,
recording.
no, that's why I haven't gone there.
You just did. Now we just lost all the feed. They cut it off.
I'll tell you, I don't think that's the one place that this wasn't posted was Twitter. These 16th note triplets that you're doing to that kick, very complicated.
That's it?
Yeah, very, very cool.
So it's cool?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I thought I was like being like, oh, like I don't know, old school or old fashioned or something.
Difficult to do.
I'm self-taught, man. You know, I'm not.
Take
You
away
know,
a pedal
I
and see
got
what
a
happens.
15-year-old, I mean a 14-year-old, one of my friends, his son's 14 years old, man. And that kid he's pro, dude, like, man, because, you know, they had him in School of Rock and all that, educated.
Actually,
You know.
take a second. Give him a shout out.
But yeah, Finding September, man.
Finding
Look them
September,
up.
man. Those guys were just up here in Austin
Yeah,
doing a
they're
video.
a bunch of kids, man. They just did a video yesterday here in Austin. But, yeah, Finding September. They're on Twitter,
Instagram,
Snapchat,
Facebook,
Instagram, and
all the good
everything.
stuff.
Yeah. And these are kids. They're 14, 15-year-olds, you know. And they're awesome.
So
I mean, they're great.
What David's saying is he's in competition with the 14-year-old.
Yeah, but my parents didn't do that for me, so
Yeah.
self-taught.
Yeah, Ruben's a good guy, man. Good dad.
Yeah, great dad, great person. That whole family's awesome. But yeah, you know, you do it with you do the best you can with what you have and what you're given. So for this guy to say that sounds good, I'm kind of, you know, that's a compliment. Thank you.
This guy.
I'll take it to heart.
Because he would surely tell you if it sucked.
That's the beauty of working with me, isn't it?
No, and that's what I want to hear. I want you to tell me, don't do that. Don't do that anymore. Or
Knock
you
that
know,
shit off, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Really, bro? I just done told you.
I think shout out to Phil Capitano, man. I think you would enjoy this right now if you were sitting here with me right now.
Well, luckily the stream gets saved, and you could rewatch it. So, if you
Oh,
want
that's
to
neat.
check
Oh,
it
but it's
out.
better to sit here.
Yeah.
So you can actually watch the devil play.
No.
See, the meaning behind that song, right? Let the devil play, is because I knew this guy was going to have his hands all over our music.
There he is, right there.
And David's like, man, you just got to let him do his thing.
Yeah,
I'm
just
like, damn it, let the devil play, bro.
Let those fingers go, bro. Hey, you know what? I'm leaving right now. Shit. I'll do it again if I have to.
I don't think you'll have to, man. This is a very complicated fill.
Damn.
I can't even do it with my
Sounds
mouth.
pretty good.
Dude,
That's how I learned, dude. That's how I did. I learned how to play drums, man, sitting on the edge of my bed with two pencils in my hand, bro. And listening to Justice for All, dude, over and over.
oh, that's why you suck. No, I'm joking.
The whole album, man. No, it got me coordinated, dude, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't play the drums very well.
Yeah,
It's just simple. People would tell me I was good, but, you know, I wanted to be like Neil Peart. You know, I wanted to be great.
I don't want to be good.
Yeah,
I want to destroy motherfuckers.
I want to blow people out of the damn water. So that's what I did every day.
It's
man,
like being
for
told,
a
like,
long time, dude.
I used to run clubs, right? And I would have waitresses, and I used this, or bartenders too. I would have this tactic, right, where I'd go up to them and I'd be like, you know, you are my second favorite bartender. Ooh, that would light a fire under their ass, dude. They're like, I'm second. What the fuck?
So what did they say? How can I be your first? What do you need me to do?
Oh, I didn't have to say anything after
Take
that,
out
man.
the trash, girl.
No one wants to hear that they're second. It's like, who's this motherfucker who's first?
I think I hit a wrong tone on that one.
Yeah, I hear it. I'll be able to get that for you. There's like a stick in there.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is the same fill you did in the first chorus, except double the time.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to just paste that over for you.
Yeah, that's what I try to keep in mind as well as when I'm playing. Like, I know I do certain things at first, try not to be overdoing it, but I try to like save the excitement for later on, towards the ending. crazy fill.
Don't give it all away right at first.
Yeah.
You got to make them
Lure
want
them
it.
in.
Yeah.
I want to be able to. Because the way I listen to music is like, oh, dude, did you hear that? It might be just a simple bend on the bass or bend on the guitar.
Let's split second.
That
2.5
one
minutes
moment
in.
makes the freaking song for me. And I have a lot of those moments with Tool. You know, like one of my favorite songs is "The Patient" because, man, he just that that bending in that song. It's just like wow. And music's powerful too, man. Like, you feel it and you're like, man, it'll get you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the right drum fill, man. Right drum fill can really make or break something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm drinking everybody's curious, I'm drinking a michelada. I don't know what time
It's
it
afternoon.
is. I don't know what time it is over there where you're at, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Not here.
Oh yeah, we still got 3 hours.
And I gotta fly through those. Take my time. Not too much time. Why, is there a certain time you can have a beer? Anybody? I think it was kind of like spring breaking it, man.
Well, for us.
Yeah, usually when I'm playing my music, it's
All the other guys,
at night.
all the other men in the world
Not
are busy
during the
right now
day.
doing something.
Thank you, honey. This is my Father's Day gift. And the coming.
Please tell me you could hear that in the live feed. Oh, for anybody interested too, man, on Saturday we're having Visitors Day. It's $50. You come on in, hang out in the studio, see how this all goes down, and possibly be on the record, man. We're going to do some group chants to at least probably 3 songs. Give you a t-shirt, give you a copy of the album when it's done, that you would be on if you so choose. And it's all due to our gracious host, Anthony Santos, also our producer. Cool guy, Westfall Recording. I was making some jokes yesterday about him being a Nazi, but he's pretty cool.
Some of it sounds true.
The problem is the more I hear our songs on playback, I start rewriting the words into some Weird Al version of our songs.
You gotta out weird Al.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdo.
I'm sitting here coming up with alternate lyrics.
Force him to make a normal version of your song.
There you go. Actually, I had a buddy that used to dress up like a stormtrooper and tour around with that guy for a while.
I have a friend that was one of his backup dancers one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's essentially what this guy was, but he had to wear a stormtrooper costume for the, I guess it was the Yoda song or the Rip on Lola. He get paid a lot though, man. $500 to dance up, you know, put on a plastic suit and go do some silly dance moves.
It's a good thing you don't know how to dance.
Yeah.
So
Well, you don't like my plastic suit, or what? Almost there.
We're getting there. And then we do the fun stuff. We get the sounds.
Almost done fixing all your mistakes, bro.
The next one would be better.
Oh, my Lord.
I need to go in there and get my phone. The kids, you love my shooters. Now they'll hate you.
Needy kids. What are they thinking? You know what's funny about this is I swear to God, like when they do, you know, accounting and stuff like that, it's the same algorithm and they're using like elastic time and
You would think
they're trying to crunch things into the perfect grid.
should take a look at the math behind this. It's insane. It's all matrix math.
Yeah.
In order to make it work. Ooh.
I know a little bit. Did you hear that awesome note in my solo just then? My scratch track? That was beautiful. Beep. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is.
Killing it on the scratch track. 16th notes here.
I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot, man, but you want to tell them a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
I mean, they probably know a lot about me by now. I don't know who's watching, but we have like a good 150, 200 videos on the channel.
Cool.
So hopefully they know a little bit. Cheeseburger and fries. Cheeseburger and fries says, you were just adding some experimental twist to the scratch track. It's a good way to explain it away.
There you go.
I see.
keep seeing cheeseburger on there now. I'm getting hungry.
You're not a fries guy?
I've been trying to be healthier lately, man. But yeah, I like fries. Out of all these songs, we only have a couple that are in 3/4.
Yeah, and they'll be the hardest ones.
Yeah.
They'll be the ones we edit the most.
Yeah.
Because you see every time it goes to triplet, I'm like changing
Right.
the grid.
You know, they used to have these guitar solo humming contests where you just hum or like whistle a guitar solo. Man, I bet you I'd kick ass at that.
Start one, dude. Make a Facebook event.
Yeah.
Start on Instagram. You start one up. It's Austin, Texas, dude. We do it by Friday.
Dude, like, man, I know so many classic rock solos. Or Prince. I'm not gonna do it right now, but get a couple beers in me. It's on.
I gotta redo something.
Yeah, the whole thing, dude.
Damn. I'm down. Be better if the bass player was here.
Right? I wouldn't have had to play his parts all day. No, I'm just- Not to mention figure them out. Thanks, John. Nah, he's with Mama. He's okay. I
Yeah,
guess.
he's good. He's got the.
I'll forgive him, I guess.
He requested the day off. All is forgiven. Why didn't you didn't give it to me?
Yeah, dude.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, dude.
Did you? No, I don't have it.
Did you lose it?
I didn't use it. It's right here, dude.
What?
You never gave it to me.
See, and boys and girls, this is why you're supposed to practice all the time.
Yep.
Because then poor Anthony doesn't have to do this. You know.
It's why you
I'm
think
just-
I'm a Nazi. It's why.
Hey! Or I did that totally wrong.
I was like, what were you thinking, man? You could have called him anything else. Slave driver. Is there something like that?
Why'd you have to go with Nazi, man? Because it's funnier. To me, it's funnier.
Yeah, it has that swing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like almost stuttered, kind of.
I'm giving him a challenge.
There's all these technical terms in music too, right? Like, you know that part where you go wheelie wheelie wheelie. You know, it's like, oh yeah, totally.
I guess I know. Where do you want me to start start from?
You know, you know. Yeah, totally. I feel like, you know, I feel like it's hard to compete with boobs, man.
You have great New York boobs. That's my favorite
I feel like
skit.
it's a tough thing for us.
Favorite skit from Dave Chappelle, man. You know, how do you tell women they got great breasts without offending them? You know, and then he creates this skit, and then he's wearing the weirdest mustache ever. And, you know, that New York, I mean, that Asian accent. Yeah,
You know what?
That clicking was a little.
Here, hold this for a second. Put you down for a second.
I'm gonna do the do.
Do a shameless plug.
Do 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 da.
I got a little confused on your fill there. And I'm gonna fix it up.
Diggity diggity da. Diggity diggity da.
Oh,
Do it
man.
again?
Yeah, I can't even do it with my mouth.
Diggity diggity da.
I gotcha. It was the kick's not actually involved in it. The kick comes before it. That's what I got confused on.
Boom. And there you go.
There you go.
Sweet, dude. You have a tip jar, dude. That'd be awesome. Like, dude, that was great. Here's $1. Oh man, that was better. Here's $2.
This whole place is a tip jar, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, actually, we're talking about calling the album The Architecture of Sound, and boy, here you go. This is yet another reason why, I suppose. You know?
We're getting towards the end.
Originally, I meant it as a songwriting thing, but this applies also, I would say. This is our scaffolding. No, what I always tell people too when I'm teaching and stuff is when you record, you know, it's kind of like building a house, man. You got to make sure the foundation's good before you start building shit with crazy cuts and weird angles and stuff that weren't supposed to be there. So you make sure the foundation's perfect.
There you go. Dun, dun, da, dun, da, dun, dun.
So we're just kind of doing this one as a template too. like you were talking about, this is kind of our reference for the
so
future,
we're gonna
for the
take
rest of
this-
the tracks.
Yeah, we're gonna take this all the way to the finished mixed drums, and then we could do the whole rest of the record.
Yeah,
And
then
tomorrow I'll come in and do this on everything.
Right. He's got to sweat it out after this.
Yeah.
So hard work from here on out.
Yeah. Should have picked like one of the hardest ones in the beginning.
I told him.
Or was this one of the hardest ones?
He wanted to do it. You gotta listen to what he's saying to me. I'm not gonna rebel.
I wasn't standing here.
Rain
I'm
down
finding
fire
out
from
right
heaven
now,
on
bro.
me.
I'm finding out right now.
For how slow the gnats fly around, they usually have a good takeoff. They're pretty fucking fast. Shit was going. I ain't even thought it. They could read minds.
Hey, man. It's tough to say. You ever think about that? Like, sounds like someone punching a speed bag, yo. Like,
Yeah, killer job.
get me in the gym, man.
I did, trust me. I was worried about what I was like. Fuck it. Let the gut fool you, man.
No, you know what's funny is sometimes from the music store I don't put that check in my direct deposit because I don't want my bank having access to it immediately, right? So I'll go pick it up, and sometimes I'll cash it at this little check cashing place by the house or whatever, and there's a boxing gym right there, and every time I go in there you just hear nothing but that. Those people at the poor check cashing place are like, fuck my life, you know? Just nothing but
My friend
right
Ruben
next
used
to
to
it.
read those to me all the time, man. We were driving around. He would read those my life stories.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Sounds like a bubbling brew, man. It's like
That's how I try. That's what it's supposed to sound like.
nice.
Yeah. It's hard to do that, man.
Stop bragging.
Oh, it is, dude. Then especially right now under pressure.
Pressure.
Well, actually, no. That's too much, so I'm alright. Now I'm gonna be all Eno in there and shit. Fucking all. Every field's gotta be perfect now.
David's looking at their grid going,
I'm gonna be all
how can I match that?
Almost there.
Game over, man.
And this is awesome to watch.
I heard that.
You heard that shit?
Oh, no takeoff for you.
Oh, really? Oh, you're in the blind.
So for all of you who don't know, imagine how much time this takes when you're doing 12 songs.
So he's not going to be here all week.
You better have a comfy chair.
I will be done tomorrow.
Oh, you're fast. Not everybody's that fast, man.
Well, it depends on how good you are.
Yeah, the more you do it, I'm sure you get pretty quick at it. Get a good.
Is there a certain time limit you have per song?
Nope.
Just internally with yourself.
What's the worst you've had?
I did an EP that took me an entire night. Like, I took it home, and we were supposed to come back in the next day, and I just canceled on them because it took 12 hours.
Son of
Sorry, guys. Someone stole my car.
I just opened it.
Oh,
It was too rough. I
yeah.
had to
No,
fix
I'm
it.
just using.
So hopefully they're like, well, shit, man, damn, next time we gotta be tight.
So those are the words you don't want to hear.
Yeah. So far I haven't heard them.
Never say never. Let's go get you some V8 juice or something.
Yeah, it says on
Yeah.
the lip right here. The red stuff is right there. That ending, remember I just developed that 50 arrows one night.
Yeah. Happy accident. Or maybe it wasn't an accident. It's kind of reminds me of someone running up the stairs real fast. Like the the stairs.
Oh, one of them was off. Getting better and better.
That's all, folks. Thank you. Come again.
We did it. Look how many different lines we made.
Looks like
The
a
whole
barcode.
The whole song. Alright, I'll try to make it better. So you don't have to do anything. That's never gonna happen.
Yeah, you can't take the human out of human.
Well, too bad I'm not here.
All right, let me just walk through. The people who are here for audio want to hear what's going on now. So all the audio nerds like me, we're going to consolidate. We've committed to all those changes that I just made. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in some extra sounds that I think I'm going to want for the record. Like the snare drum has a lot of pop to it, not a bunch of crack. So I'm going to add in a sound that has a little more crack to it. I'm probably going to add in something that has a little bit fatter too. I'll probably do 2 sounds for the snare. And for the bass drum, his bass drum is very, it's probably the same thing, very poppy. He has a not much like bottom end and not much click to it. So I'm going to do both of those too. So I'll add in 4 new sounds that I can mix in with the real sounds for those things. We tune up the toms like crazy. I think they sound good. So we'll just EQ them, compress them. I think they'll be all right. But first things first, let's go ahead and do our sound replacement. And we call it sound replacement, but we're not really replacing. We're still going to use the sounds that we do have.
Augmenting.
Sound augmentation is the word he just came up with.
Yeah.
Did I coin that?
You just coined it.
All right.
That's it.
Where's my money? No.
Here's your coin.
Yeah, here's your 2 cents.
Yeah, how about you just close the door right behind you, man?
Or what do they call
Vamos
it?
a ver.
It's not. Yeah, it's not virtual reality. It's augmented reality, right? Because it's half and half.
Like my drinks, half tequila, I have beer. I'm just kidding.
So I chose these samples while we were getting drum sounds, but when you do it, you can go ahead and see what you need and choose from there. Now, these programs are going to print. I'm going to bust them so that they print on these 2 tracks. from kick and kick dub, so I don't have to do it twice. So I'm just going to copy down what I have here onto my kick dub track, and then I'll do the same with my snare onto my snare dub track.
Make it sound powerful.
And now we will bust this one out to bus 1. This one out to bus 2.
Him on the short bus.
At least I'm not bus 50. Yeah, you don't want to be on 50.
Now we want to get these zeroed out. So this might be a little loud, so I'm going to pull these down for what you guys are hearing out there in YouTube land. And the snare will do the same. It's bus 3 and bus 4.
For you soon to be, watch your work.
Zero out our inputs. Our outputs we could bring down a little bit so we don't make it too loud. Okay, first thing, we're going to solo out, and we're going to solo and record here. I'm just going to solo and input this first one to make sure that the sounds are coming out properly. All right, that one's looking good. It's catching all of my hits there. So these is 2 different programs. That first one was Drumagog. This one's Trigger. I like both of them. I own Drumagog first, and I have some Drumagog samples that don't transfer to Trigger, and I don't feel like going through the trouble of making Trigger samples out of them. I'm not going to go crazy with the dynamics. I'm going to allow for a little bit of velocity changes, but not a ton of it, because I want this to be pretty standard. I'm going to use his regular bass drum to give it that human feel, and this to kind of tighten him up, almost like instead of just slamming with compressor, we have this, so we keep everything a little more live when it comes to the real drums. All right, we'll do the same thing with the snare now. This snare that I'm using, this is the Joey Sturgis snare. You can get this online if you want it. You could go ahead and buy it. I don't think it's expensive. I think it was like $20 or something. But very cool snare. Just want to make sure I get all the hits. So I'm looking for the faster hits. Yeah, we're looking good now.
Get a brain within a certain threshold.
Exactly. So I'm adjusting the threshold there. And this is the same thing here. They call it detail on this, but it's threshold, yeah. So this is that more fatter one, a lot of like the back end of the snare. All right, let's print this out. I'll probably have to just fix a few things, but we'll print it first. Yeah, that flamming won't wind up on the actual product. That's just there's a lot of processing going on at the same time. So now we just sit here and wait for 4 minutes. The fun stuff.
So now we all pick up our phones.
Yeah, now's the time to respond to the people who are commenting on Instagram and Facebook.
I'm just taking documentation for my kids at home.
Play Fix Daddy.
Oh man, they tired me out, man. They have my wife tired right now. My son had a tournament yesterday, and usually I'm there to help her. And then my daughter had practice too, so her mom helped her out. But it's good. That's what mothers are for, man. They're good help. Love them.
So I was helping a friend of mine record, girlfriend of mine, where she plays a ukulele and just sings or whatever. She never really been in a studio situation. She's in there.
If you tell the story, go ahead. Let people hear it.
Oh, yeah. So my friend, last Sunday before we came in here, we were recording this girl named Katya Haywood, and she plays ukulele and sings. She's very talented, very good. So I decided to take her into a friend's studio just to lay down some stuff. It was very interesting because she thought she was just gonna go in there and like play these songs and like walk out in like 30 minutes. Yeah. So I think she did good. It took her about an hour for each song, but just getting the main line vocal and her rhythm track took about an hour for each one. Nice. Sound like Machine Head. But anyhow, yeah, she's gonna be an up and comer here real soon, man.
Can't wait to see her.
Well, if you look on my Facebook, I keep sharing stuff about her. So. I'm Chris Purcell, by the way. This is David Galvan.
I can speak for myself, Chris. Hi, I'm David Galvan. The drummer. I know I don't look like one, but I'm the drummer.
It's fast bass drums.
Is it?
Yeah, Andrew Nelson.
They're quick. Quick.
For a big guy? Hey! The other day, man, I got to share this with everybody. My daughter, because I'm a big, heavy-set guy, and I told my daughter, hey, can a fat guy do this? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm looking at a fat guy do it. I laughed for about an hour, man. I was calling people, telling them about it, telling my friends, and they're just like, roasted. That's how they kept saying. All of them were saying roasted, burned.
They keep you honest, man.
Yeah, my daughter. Yeah, they do, man. My daughter she's a trip, man. She reminds me of me, like, always having a good time and, wisecrack, that's what she is, man. Sometimes you don't know how to turn it off, but, you get
Smart ass, wisecrack. Yeah.
No, that's a smart ass now, not a wisecrack, That's just being stupid, Just shut it down.
All right, now we're going to mix the drums. This is a part people actually probably want to see.
I want to see it.
So here comes the fun part. I'm going to start with the overheads and zero them out. I want them to be at 0 dBs, and we'll mix everything around that. I'm going to do a bunch of EQ sweeps, try to get the EQ right, and then go from there. Now let me reset these EQs that are on my table here. I'm definitely going to have this high-pass filter on quite a bit because I want to concentrate on the cymbals on the overheads mostly. Let's see, we have the bass drum there. I'm going to dip that out a little bit. I'm going to find some overtones on the snare that I could dip out a little bit as well.
Man, this is
So now we're working mostly with the high end. So let's find some frequencies we don't want on the high end. So we'll have to do this at different parts of the song, not just like in the verse or something, because you got the hi-hat going, the ride cymbal going, the crash going. We're going to find different tones that we don't want in there.
Oh shit, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. Just searching frequency. You looking for something? Well, back in the day when they had the graphic EQs, man, they sit there
Marking
do it all by hand, bro. They could go hunting for shit by hand.
So I can say yes or no. I really convinced it to me.
All right, we got some stuff up there that we could kind of pull down a little bit, make it a little more even. Okay, I'm going to pull out one more EQ just to work on the high end a little bit more. One of the things you should look for when you're doing this is if you find something, say around 4023, divide that number in half. So, go to 2100 area and see what you got going on over there, like I'm doing right here, because you have harmonics kind of lighting everything up. You can see the annoyingness that's there as well. So take that out a little bit.
Oh no.
Well, some of these frequencies are pretty like ear fatigue. I'm trying to sound smart back here. Dude. Come on, God.
Oh man, that is so tricky, dude.
A tiny bit out over there. All right, now I'm going to compress a little bit. I'm going to use my API compressors. I love these things. You get these, I think they're waves. I got these in a waves bundle. I like to start with their presets, but turn your analog off, otherwise it creates sound and you don't want that. The ratio, I'm definitely not doing infinity. But so just a little bit of pushback on that snare drum, because we're going to have a snare track, so I don't want that snare drum really blasting through the overheads too much. That's what I'm doing with this, a little bit of pushback on the snare. Now we have two of them, we'll pan them left and right, and we have our overhead set at 0. There we are. Let's get the room mic in there. Now, the room mic, I'm going to have a completely different approach to. I don't just want the cymbals through there, and I actually don't want a ton of cymbals through there. So I'm going to put on a high-pass filter and a low-pass filter, so we get a little middle ground type thing going on. I don't know if you hear that already, but there's something right up here that's really nasty. There it is. Get that out of there. I might just take a little bit of the mids out. Alright. And now we're going to compress the hell out of that. Same plugin. I'll put it on my room mic, and then we're going to go really, really heavy. Drums room, take my analog off, ratio is 10. That's what I was looking for. Good. Alright, I like what we're working with already. Alright, next thing we're going to do is the probably the least fun thing that we're going to do is we're going to edit out the toms here before we EQ them.
Homeboy's excited as real drums.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of people doing real drums, and he might have been commenting that we're adding in those fake drums to the real drums. Be like, that's not still real drums. There's a lot of like the audio community who's like a purist, you know what I mean? And I understand that.
Well, every drummer is.
Yeah, I'm down with that. So I'm basically manually gating everything. I'm just gonna make some big pushes first, and then I'm gonna show you how to do this really, really fast. So we'll just get the big ones out of the way. Let me just show you why I'm doing this actually. So this is just the toms. I really don't want to hear that the whole song. So we get those out of there. We won't have the tom mics dishing out the sound that we want from the overheads and so on.
Oh, I see. I get it.
Yeah, because the mic's on the whole time.
Yeah, of course. So you want to get that.
Just creates a bunch
The
of
real
noise and
drums,
stuff.
you'll hear that.
Well, especially with the floor tom, since you have a cymbal like right above it and you like crash on it, I want to make sure I get that out of there. Otherwise, we'd have this weird floor tom hissing sound every time you hit it like a crash. Yeah, we don't want that.
I'll adjust
It's my sound, bro.
it. Yeah, I know. Man. Sounds
That's why I
great.
brought my trash can lid too, man.
So if you're doing this and you're new to this, don't do it this quickly. Like actually listen to the tracks and take them apart. I'm able to tell like what they look like because I've been doing this for 15 years. So don't do this fast, otherwise you'll delete stuff that's supposed to be there.
Like for example, that hit looked like it could have been all toms, but it was.
Yeah. Well, it's actually what I look for is the sharpness of the hit.
Yeah.
See, this floor tom is very round, so you're gonna have a lot of this, like a lot of the same, instead of this like quick die off.
Right.
That's a higher frequency thing. That's the cymbal
Decay of it, yeah.
dying off. High frequencies die off quickly.
Yeah, it gets trippy when he's like expanding it and crunching and expanding. You're like, whoa.
I'll raise it right now. It's gonna happen no matter what, right?
This is kind of a preview for you too of what the rest of the stuff's gonna more or less be like.
Yeah, one of the reasons I do this is to help you play drums. Is like to make you understand, like, all right, if I was just off by this much on this, that's not a big deal. But if I don't do a good performance, that is a big deal. Because I could fix little timing issues, but I can't make you play better. Like,
Fix the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as you want to. Right back.
Now, this is one of those tricks where you see like there's this could be a tom hit, that could be a tom hit. What you have to look for is we have a snare drum going, and we have a floor tom definitely going, and I'm almost sure that the drummer only has two hands, so I could take these guys out of there. That's definitely not real. getting there on the toms. I know this takes a little while, but you got to do it right.
You're gonna have fun all day, bro. That's all I do is toms.
He's warning me that he has a lot of toms in the next songs, which is
The
fine.
whole
I have no
album,
issue with that. Some of these snares aren't supposed to be there. I just caught a few of them, just deleting them. That's just because of the triggering that we did. All right, we're good. So I'm going to highlight everything. Just going to Command F. I have 5 millisecond fades going on right now. Just going to do that just to make sure everything has a fade on it in case I miss something, that it doesn't really mess up the whole record. But now we're going to do the fun stuff. This is like it's a way to really cut things super quick. It's like Fruit Ninja for Pro Tools. So just put on your tab to, I think it's this one, tab to transient. And you press the tab button and it brings you to the nearest transient. So there we are. You press the A button, delete everything before it. Chop your fade. Well, we'll do the full fades after. So we'll keep on tabbing the transient on this track. I should have deleted this. And that's that track. Look at the next track. This is pretty fast, so you don't really have to cut it too close to do this. All you have to do is just tab to transient, press A, go to the next one. One more track, just the floor tom. And that's that. I'm just going to do that fade again, because I want to put little fades at the beginning of everything, and then I want to fade out properly on each one of them. So you'll see there's little fades at the beginning of each one of these. There's our little fade. And we're going to fade out properly on them. I'm going to kind of ballpark it for right now. I could always go back and do this more. You want to fade after the hit has stopped. You don't want to start fading before the transient at any point, or immediately after the transient. You want to fade, just let it have the impact and start fading. And this stops it from being very abrupt as you hear the tom get cut. You don't want it to be cut. You want it to kind of fade off so that it's not super abrupt when the tom stops. And you got to remember, like the first thing we did was get the overheads ready, and the overheads carry the toms through as well, and so does the room mic. So they will continue carrying that sound through. So this just lets it kind of come off a little quicker. All right, we got that all fixed up and faded, so let's get our sounds for the toms. Let's start with the high rack tom. We have 2 rack toms and a floor tom. We'll start with the highest rack tom. We'll start with an EQ. So my go-to on EQs is to dip out a little bit of the mids for these, is dip them out a whole bunch, because you get a lot of just like attack from the toms, and you want more of like a warmth from them. So I dip out a bit of the mids, and that helps out big time. And then we go from there. You hear the difference too. A lot less attack. So now I'm going to sweep the bottom, see what's going on, what's making weird sounds. That's a little big. I'll take that down a little bit. I'll throw a low pass filter, a high pass filter on, just a tiny bit, maybe up to 80. And we'll find if there's anything towards the top as well. It's very clicky around this area. Let me take that down a tiny bit too. That's all I wanted to do. I'm just going to use the regular compressor limiter that Pro Tools comes with for this. Have it on my toms tight. And I never want to have too much compression. I want the toms to sound real and live. So I'm good with that. Let's move on to the rack tom. And we'll start off with what I had in the middle. go from there. Sounds like the same spot, so we'll dip that down. Let's see what's going on up here. Okay, there's our clickiness. Get that down a little bit. Cool. Now we got our second rack tom. We'll go to our floor tom. Oh, let me put that compressor on that I had. Cool. Pick up a little. Now we'll go to the floor tom. I'll find a spot where it's been played a little more than that. Maybe right here. Okay. Bring that EQ down. We're going to keep the middle section and just sweep the top and bottom. Yeah, some annoying sounds right there. We'll dip that out. We'll go high to see if we can find anything. Yeah, that clickiness over there I'll get rid of. And I'll get rid of that really high stuff that we just heard. Cool. Now we have the toms pretty much set up. There we are. Yeah, that's the snare coming through the tom mic, but I'm not going to cut it right there because it's going to cut the tom too quickly. It's going to be too abrupt. So we're just going to get away with it there. It's during a fill, we should be able to get away with it.
All right.
All right, let's move on. I'm not going to mix these in yet. I'm just mixed them. I'm just going to mute them out. We're going to move on to the bass drum. All right, the kick dub, if you were with me for this whole thing, I'm not sure how many people are, but if you were with me for this whole thing, the kick dub was a copy of the kick. We were using it when we were triggering different sounds. So we're just going to get rid of that. I'm going to hide it. We don't need to work with that. But we do need to work with the actual kick drum here. Let's see what it sounds like. There's that pop. Take that down a bunch. Sounds much better. All right, what else do we got? All right, I'm liking that. Let's compare it to what we had. Sounds much better. So let's throw on a compressor. Use my DSP. Throw on my kick thump. Great. That's my first one. Now I'm going to mess with the samples that I'm putting in. Do a little EQ to them just to see if there's anything wrong. These samples are probably already EQ'd and everything. I just want to take a little bit of that weird bottom out. Tiny bit of that out. Yeah. Not all of it because I do like it. It's a little bit. hear something towards the mid-high range. Dip there, and we'll dip at that other. Cool. And we got that going. I'm gonna use the same kick thump and just adjust. All right, that's good. Next sample. Start EQing that as well. No problem there. There's a bunch of clickiness towards the high end. I guess get that out of there. Dip that down. Now it sounds like a bass drum. Good. Cool.
Can it just sound like that when you hit it?
We'll add
I haven't
same
sang that.
compressor. Cool.
Wow, it just sounds badass.
Now we will make a mono aux input, and it's going to be called kicks. This is where we work on all the kicks together. So let's call that bus number 1. We'll take all these guys, send them to bus number 1.
Buzz them over there.
And on bus number 1, all I'm going to throw in here is a compressor. My compressor on this track will just tighten up all the bass drums so they sound like one bass drum. That's what I want to do with this. I'm going to use the kick setting I have set for this. Bass drum, BD. And turn my analog off.
That stands for something else, bro.
All right, bass drum's really too loud. So this is actually going to react to what you feed to this channel rather than what's on the track. So if I make this louder, this reacts to that. So I have to kind of mix this in first before I adjust the compressor here. I'm gonna check the phasing on this real quick. Yeah, we had a little bit of phasing, so I just reversed the phase on that so the samples are matching a little better. Make sure it doesn't mess up the regular kick. No, we're good there. All right, now we got our kicks pretty much set. Let's move on to our snares. We're almost there. Get rid of that snare dub that we had. Same reason. All right, get our EQ out, see what's going on with that. Feeling pretty good about that. Let's just add on compressor to that as well. I'm going to use my snare comp. I'm just tapping it. It's a little bit of gain reduction. Alright, the snare gog will be the next thing. That bottom had a little bit too much of like a ping to it, really low ping. And there's something towards the high mids as well. Nah, I didn't mean to do that for you. Right there, take that down a little. And same compression, just adjusted for it. One more snare. This is sort of like my bottom snare. I want this to have that like sizzly sound to it.
People comment. He had a comment before. He was like, "That's my favorite song."
Shout out.
Just to get a little more sustain, I take the gain reduction down that a whole bunch. All right, now we're going to make an aux input for the snare as well.
Somebody. Just being stupid.
Snare, cool. Turn the analog off. And the input of that will be number 2.
Are you familiar with Machiavelli? It was the prince, right? Was
The
word?
prince, yeah. And now we're going to mix this into the mix that we have. Some sort of flam on the snare drum. I'm just going to get rid of it. Oh, you know what it is? It's the bass drum. Cool. Let's fix that. All right, now we're going to make a drums bus for everything. Stereo aux input will be drums. We're also going to make one more of those. Let's make one stereo aux input. That will be our drum verb. That'll be our reverb for our drum track. Our drum bus will be 3 and 4. Bus everything that we have. So the only thing that we wouldn't bus is the stuff that's already going to buses. We'll take those buses and bus it to our drum bus. If that's not confusing, I don't know who you are.
They don't call it a bus carrier?
Yeah, so the snares are all going into the snare bus. I'm going to bus the bus into the drums bus rather than having two separate, having parallel things going on.
Is that how Busta Rhymes came up with that song?
Mm-hmm. That's it. So here we are. We'll go 3 and 4 with all of those.
Bus.
Rockin'
So our bass drums are being collected by our kicks bus, our snares will be connected by our snare bus, and those buses are sent to our drums bus along with everything else, room mics, overheads, and toms. I'm going to get a pretty good level on this, and then we're going to add in some reverb, and hopefully we have it pretty much there. On my drums bus, I'm going to put on a compressor, just tapping it with compression over and over again, so it doesn't sound over compressed, it just sounds like tighter. All right, let's add some reverb into this. I'm going to use my Altiverb. I think they'll be our best bet here.
They'd be doing it in Mexico, bro.
Put them in a club.
Like this real life show.
Size of this.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Then.
And this tells you what the size of the club is and so on. So this is pretty big. This will make it seem pretty epic. A lot of the times when it's bands like that have more of a light, you can actually see right here, have more of a club sound. I'll put them in this one because it has a really quick return time in 2 seconds. This one has 3.8 seconds, a little bit longer on the return. We'll make that bus 7 and 8. And we will make bus 7 and 8. Now, here's what we do here. We're going to do all the tracks at around -8. This is our send to our bus. The cool thing about this is we could send the amount of snare and bass drum and everything differently to our bus track, just by adjusting what's going on inside of that bus plugin. So there we are. So everything is bussed out at -8 except for the snare drum. I'm going to bust that out at 0, so we have a big amount of reverb on the snare, because people seem to like that ever since the 80s, so we're going to stick with it.
No.
And we'll
that's where
bus the reverb into the drum track, into the drum bus, so 3 and 4. So it's going out of these into our reverb bus, out of our reverb bus into our drum bus that's being compressed, and so on. Now I could add and subtract the reverb just by adjusting this here. Very cool. All right, this is what we pretty much have for our drum mix. This is what we're starting with, and we're going to do another 11 songs. So, all right, thanks for being with us. Please check out the record when it's done. We will be doing a lot of updates. We might even be able to do a live stream where we track guitars. That might be really cool. So check back. That'll probably be in about 2 days, but I'll make an event so everybody can check back and see if they want to be there. Thanks for being here with us. These guys will say bye.
Late.
Thank
See you
you.
later, guys. We're about to cut the stream. Take care.